Welcome, friends, to another r/entitled parents video. Our first story of the day is by Cadence828. No, I won't ruin my relationship with my uncle for you. My uncle was a late whoops baby, so he and I are moderately similar in age. Out of everyone in the family, he and I have the closest relationship, especially now that I'm an adult and have more control over how often I can see him. He has an illness which prevents him from working, so he's been stuck living with my grandparents, his parents, his entire life. They're abusive, manipulative jerks and have been for as long as anyone can remember. Because of this, to say my uncle does not care for them is putting it lightly. Last year, he was finally able to move out on his own, and he went no contact with his parents and did not look back. I could not be more proud of him for how well he's doing, and it's obvious that his mental health is improving with the distance from his abusers. This afternoon, my grandparents called me and sounded very worried. With shaking voices, they said there was a problem and they needed to talk to my uncle, but he wouldn't answer their calls. They asked me to call with them on the line because they knew he would answer for me. Essentially, they wanted my help to stomp all over his boundaries. I told them I would not be doing that, but that I could either pass on the message for them, or that I could let him know they needed to speak with him. They wouldn't tell me the problem, so I just sent him a text telling him that they wanted to talk about something important and that they seemed worried. Turns out, it was all a ploy. He ended up calling them, and there wasn't actually an issue at all, just a minor update they wanted him to know. They wanted me to break his trust and ruin our relationship so that they could more easily disrespect him. I know this isn't a very exciting story, but I'm upset and I wanted to vent about it. This seemed like an appropriate place to do so. Grandparents or not, do you think this is a situation where you get back in contact with them and frankly you give them a piece of your mind for trying to use you like that? Let me know in the comments down below. Our next story is by Purple Wolf 2000. I didn't put you in therapy so you could use techniques on me. Backstory: I've been in therapy for a few years, and this story is from a few months after starting. I went in due to severe depression and PTSD, caused by life with my abusive entitled mother. However, my entitled mother constantly used it to complain about me to my therapist and get him to fix my behavior. However, my therapist was great, and after my entitled mother would leave halfway through the sessions, we started working in calming and coping techniques for when entitled mother and I would fight, which was a constant occurrence, helping me to try and stay calm so to not lose my cool or to escalate things and to communicate better. The incident: as mentioned, my mom and I fight often, so after talking to my therapist about ways to try and stay calm during a fight, I didn't have to wait long before my entitled mother found something to be mad at me for. I felt myself getting angry, however, I remember what my therapist had said and tried to remain calm. I thought this would help, but somehow this made things worse. I don't remember what the fight was about, but I do remember her yelling at me. "Hello? Why are you so calm? Are you a psychopath?" I said, "I understand you're upset, and I'm trying to remain calm so we can communicate." "You're enjoying this, aren't you? Freaking psycho. You can see I'm upset and you're just standing there all calm." I say, "In therapy, therapist told me to start working on my reactions when we have a disagreement, so that we can communicate without anger. That's what I'm trying to do. I hear your concern, and I would like to explain myself calmly. I've got this on autopilot now due to how often she gets mad at me for small things. I did not put you in therapy so that you could use it against me. You need to fix your behavior, not argue and be a psycho. How dare you use techniques on me?" I don't remember much of what she said after that, but the same fight occurred a few times. She often got mad at me for not acting the way she wanted me to. It made me realize that sometimes she just started a fight to take her own issues out on me, and not because I did anything wrong. If I reacted to her, we had a fight. If I was calm, we had a fight. If I ignored her, we had a fight. Was a lose-lose situation with her. I think the important thing to focus on is she is expecting to get a rise out of you. She's arguing, fully expecting you to get up in arms and reactive and combative, and it just has to frustrate you seeing her take the calmness as the therapist teaching you techniques to use against her. Like, no, this isn't a technique to try to win an argument. This is to try to connect to you as a person. It just screams tragically narcissistic to me. This next story is by Amber Lawn, entitled Mother Demands We Kick Kid with Health Problems Out of Daycare. This one happened before the pandemic started, so the kid in question, we'll call him Stan. Stan's been coming to us since he was 1. Stan is a great kid, good behavior, and the sweetest kid you ever meet. But not long after he turned 5, Stan developed this disorder called gastroparesis that has advanced to the point that he had lost most of the function of his stomach and now required feeding through tubes. It was early in the morning. Kids were just coming in when I noticed Stan and his parents. This was Stan's first day back after getting his feeding tube. His parents kept him out of daycare for a few weeks so he could get used to the tube. First thing he did was run up and show me his new tube, bright as ever, smiling and so proud. From what I learned from his parents, and the little I could find online, the tubes go up through his nose and down his throat to his intestines. It looked so uncomfortable, but this boy didn't seem to be bothered one bit. He just ran off to play with the kids. Well, entitled Mother apparently had a problem. Just as I was about to gather the kids to head in, entitled Mother came up. We will call this one Sharon. Sharon must have noticed Stan playing with the other kids. She said, "What is that boy wearing?" Stan's carrying his feeding tube supplies in a small backpack. I say, "It's a feeding tube. Stan has a stomach issue and can't eat on his own." She says, "So he's sick." I say, "He's having some health issues. His parents sent out a form to all the families explaining this. Did you not get one?" "I don't feel comfortable with him being here. What if he gets my son sick?" I say, "It's not a contagious disease. You can't catch it." "How do you know? You need to remove him from the class. It's not safe." I say, "That won't happen. He got doctor approval to come back and he will be staying here." She says, "So you're going to put all the other kids at risk?" I say, "What risk? It's not contagious." "Well, even if it's not contagious, it still scares my son. He can't be here. It's traumatizing to the other kids." Side note, Stan was actually, at the time of this conversation, surrounded by all the kids who were actually fascinated with Stan's feeding tube, asking him questions he seemed proud to answer. None of them seemed uncomfortable in the slightest, including Sharon's son, and Stan seemed to love the attention. I say, "They don't seem traumatized," pointing over to the kids. In fact, it seems like Stan has himself a little fan club. She says, "This is ridiculous. You're putting all these kids at risk. You have to remove this boy or I will go to the director." I say, "I'm not removing anyone. And go to the director. She'll tell you exactly what I did." Sharon does the classic entitled mother huff and walks off mumbling to herself. Don't think she ever did call the director, as I mentioned it to the director the next day and she told me she never got a call. So there you have it, another tale from the daycare. It's definitely a little more than disheartening to see these kinds of people who are so unaware about what is contagious and what is not contagious, and so doubtful of the facts that the doctors are giving you that they'd rather go around fear-mongering and try to get a poor kid kicked out of daycare. I'm just glad that nothing ever actually came out of it. Although I'm sure the director, considering all the regulations there has to be surrounding something like this, wouldn't have put up with any ounce of it had she did try. This next story is also by Amber Asluan, entitled Mother Demands I Give Her Another Woman's Breast Milk for Her 5-year-old. The daycare I work at, as most daycares do, allow mothers to bring in their own breast milk, and we have a fridge to store it in. All must come with labels, and there will be their own place in the fridge. One day during drop-off, I had just been given a bag of bottles of breast milk by a mother dropping off her baby. As I go to head to the kitchen, I hear the sound of entitled mother screaming my name. This entitled mother was widely known by the staff and widely disliked. Entitled mother comes up to me and the conversation starts off with her complaining about the location of our school field trip for the older kids. The kids voted where they wanted to go. They voted the park. She wasn't happy about it for some reason. I tell her what I told her before. The kids picked where they wanted to go. I can't change it. She was unhappy and huffed until she noticed the bag in my hand. And this is where it became insane. She says, "What's in the bag?" I say, "Oh, this is breast milk one of the other mothers left. I was just about to put it in the fridge." She says, "That's a lot of breast milk for one baby." I say, "Yeah, the mother wants to make sure she keeps a good stock here, so we always have some." She says, "So you must have plenty then." I say, "I guess." "Then you can give me some for my son." I say, "Billy." She says, "Yes." I say, "He's 5. I read online that feeding your kids breast milk is good for them, even older kids." I say, "I'm sorry, but these belong to another mother. They're not mine to give away." She says, "Oh, I'm sure she wouldn't mind. You said she has plenty. She likely won't even notice." I say, "It's not going to happen. Entitled mother, please sign your son in and go." She says, "This is just ridiculous. They shouldn't be able to take that stuff in if they're not going to share it with the other kids." She walks out before I can reply to that. Sharing it with the other kids? Excuse me, but what? A literal human being is producing it for the sole purpose of being for their child. And you're out here demanding they give it up to you for your 5-year-old kid just because it might benefit them a little bit? There's just so many layers of not right at all going on here. Our next story is by Annihilator. Entitled mother thinks that my mom is the reason her kid isn't passing her exam. So my mom works as a university teacher / professor, and this year her class of 7 kids were supposed to graduate, but this girl failed. She had 2 attempts. First one she failed because of complete plagiarism, with the anti-plagiarism system showing that 92% of her work was plagiarized. Second one she failed because she thought that by placing Hangul filters everywhere, she would get past the system. It didn't work. So then entitled mother took action. She called my mom saying that somebody obviously didn't want her daughter to pass and is purposely making it so that her daughter failed, and that someone was my mom. My mom tried to explain that she has no control over the system and she cannot do anything about it. My mom then showed all the examples of wrong things with the work. Entitled mother still didn't stop with her BS and started shouting. Well, my mom started shouting too. Things went back and forth for a while, and I sat in the living room listening to my mom shout at this lady. Eventually, entitled mother announced triumphantly that she recorded the phone call and that she would send it to my mom's boss. Mom said, "Okay, go do it," and hung up. My mom was salty that she wasted half an hour of her life explaining the most basic things to entitled mother, but honestly, I don't blame her. I would be salty as well. Update: the girl asked to prolong her deadline till Monday, saying that she will redo the whole thing. This is technically allowed because Monday happens to be the last day on which students are allowed to submit their work. So if she doesn't pass this one, she's a goner. Mom's suspicious about this because she thinks that the girl will hire a ghostwriter to do the work for her. But she has no power over that, so we just hope that she actually does some work. Oh, and entitled mother never contacted my mom's boss, so what she said over the phone turned out to be a plan to try and manipulate my mom into letting her daughter pass. You gotta have a lot of respect for people like OP's mom where they put up with all the BS that entitled parents can throw at them. It's good to see that in the face of adversity in this regard, they stood strong and maintained that backbone. And our final story of the day is by The Real APX. Entitled mother lets her kid play on my motorcycle and demands I take her kid for a ride. This story takes place pre-COVID on a family trip to Greece. My family's from there. I was on my way home from the beach on a motorcycle I had rented for a week. However, because I'm good friends with the owner of the rental service, I got another 3 days extra where I could ride the bike around and have some fun. Just as I come back from changing out of my swimming gear, cue entitled mother and her kid. The entitled kid was on my bike and was aggressively trying to turn the handlebars. He couldn't because of it being locked. I approached them and asked them what they were doing. The mother said, in Swedish, which I speak fluently because I live in Sweden, "Wait a minute, sweetie, mom has to deal with this rude person." To which I reply in Swedish, "How am I rude?" She gave me the dirtiest look I've ever received, and the following convo ensued. I say, "Why is your kid on my bike?" She says, "It's not your bike, it's a rental." I say, "Yeah, but I'm still paying for it." She says, "But I've seen you here with it for so long now, others want it as well." I say, "So what? You should at least take my precious baby on a ride." I say, no. He has no helmet, and I don't trust a small kid to be able to hold on properly. The bike was a Harley Fat Boy and was quite strong. Entitled Mother proceeded to yell at me for 5 minutes before the beach owner came up and asked what all the noise was about. Entitled Mother answered in the worst English I've ever heard that I was harassing her and was trying to steal her bike. I told the actual story to the owner in Greek, and she was banned from ever coming to that beach again. I love that it immediately started off where OP was apparently rude for walking up to them on their rental bike and asking, "What are you guys doing?" As if some kid climbing all over your rental property is not something to ask their parents what they're doing about. It was just immediately telling you that this was going to hit the entitled fan. But with that being said, that's all the time we have for today. So if you have a favorite story of the day, let me know which story and why in the comments down below. But besides that, if you enjoyed the video, please consider giving it a like, and if you haven't, subscribe and turn notifications on so you'll never miss an upcoming video. No matter what you do, whether it's just viewing the video, liking, subscribing, turning notifications on, I appreciate the heck out of it. Every little thing that you do helps the channel grow that much more, and I can't thank you enough for it. So, until next time, I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I'll be right here next time on the Storytime channel.